You did not choose to want this. The craving arrived before the thought did. You see the dessert menu and something fires in your brain before you have even decided whether you are hungry. You smell fried food from across a parking lot and your mouth waters before your conscious mind has registered what the smell even is. This is not weakness. This is not a lack of discipline. This is 200,000 years of programming doing exactly what it was built to do, in a world that no longer needs it to. To understand why you cannot say no to fat and sugar, you have to understand a single brutal fact about the world your ancestors lived in. Calories were rare, and calories meant survival. For almost the entire history of the human species, food was not guaranteed. There was no refrigerator, no supermarket, no guarantee that tomorrow would bring a meal at all. The difference between life and death was frequently a matter of energy reserves. Whether your body had stored enough fat to survive a lean season, a failed hunt, a long winter. In that world, a brain that craved the most calorie-dense foods available was not greedy. It was doing its job. Fat contains roughly 9 calories per gram. Sugar provides a fast, immediately usable source of energy. Both were exceptionally rare in the ancestral environment, and both were exceptionally valuable precisely because they were rare. Anthropologist and nutrition researcher Lauren Cordain has documented that the foods most available to hunter-gatherers, lean wild game, foraged plants, occasional fruit, contained nowhere near the fat and sugar concentration of modern processed food. A piece of wild fruit was a rare treat packed with natural sugar. A piece of fatty meat from a successful hunt was a feast. Your ancestors did not need willpower to enjoy these foods. They needed every advantage they could get to seek them out, because finding them was rare and difficult. This is where the brain's reward system enters the picture. Every time your ancestors found and consumed a fat or sugar-rich food, their brain released dopamine, the same neurochemical signal of anticipation and reward you learned about if you've watched our video on phone addiction. This was not an accident or a flaw. It was a precisely calibrated survival mechanism. The brain needed to make calorie-dense food feel irresistible, because the humans who found fat and sugar irresistible were the humans who prioritized seeking it out, consumed it when available, and stored the resulting fat reserves needed to survive when food became scarce again. Neuroscientist and psychiatrist Nora Volkow, who has spent decades studying the brain's reward circuitry, has shown that fat and sugar activate many of the same dopamine pathways as addictive substances. This is not a coincidence or a modern malfunction. It is the same ancient reward circuit, calibrated by millions of years of evolution to make survival-critical resources feel deeply, urgently good. And here is the part that explains almost everything about your relationship with food today. That craving was calibrated for a world of scarcity. It was never designed to be moderated. There was no evolutionary pressure to develop an internal stop mechanism for fat and sugar, because in the ancestral environment, you almost never had the opportunity to overconsume them. The food simply was not available in unlimited quantities. Your body did not need breaks, because the environment itself was the break. Then, within the span of a few generations, a blink of evolutionary time, that environment vanished. Industrial food production made fat and sugar not just available, but engineered for maximum craving. Food scientist and behavioral researcher Michael Moss has documented how the processed food industry deliberately uses what is internally called the bliss point, the precise ratio of sugar, fat, and salt that maximizes craving and consumption. This is not an accident of modern manufacturing. It is the intentional exploitation of the exact reward circuit your ancestors needed to survive. Your ancient brain, the same one that once had to work hard to find a single piece of ripe fruit or a successful hunt, now walks past unlimited fat and sugar in every grocery store aisle, every vending machine, every drive-through window. The scarcity that once kept your craving in check is simply gone. But the craving itself, built across 200,000 years to overcome that scarcity, remains exactly as powerful as it always was. This explains why just eat less feels so impossibly difficult as advice. You are not fighting a character flaw. You are fighting a reward system that was built, with extraordinary precision, to make calorie-dense food feel like one of the most urgent and satisfying experiences available to a human being. Telling that system to ignore an entire aisle of engineered bliss points is asking it to override 200,000 years of survival programming using willpower alone. A battle the ancient brain almost always wins because it was never designed to lose. There is a second layer to this craving that goes beyond simple calorie seeking. Researchers studying evolutionary nutrition have identified what is sometimes called the thrifty gene hypothesis, the idea that populations who survived repeated cycles of feast and famine evolved metabolisms that store fat with extreme efficiency whenever calories are available as insurance against the famine that might follow. Geneticist James Neel first proposed this idea in the 1960s to explain why certain populations seemed biologically primed to gain weight rapidly when food became abundant. Whether or not every detail of the original hypothesis holds up, the underlying principle remains widely supported. Bodies that evolved under conditions of unpredictable food scarcity are metabolically built to capitalize on abundance the moment it appears, storing every available calorie as protection against a famine that, in the modern world, never actually arrives. So when you find yourself reaching for a second slice or unable to stop at one cookie, you are not encountering a personal failure. You are encountering an ancient, finely tuned survival mechanism operating exactly as designed, in an environment that no longer matches the one it was built for. The mismatch is not your fault. It is the same mismatch between an ancient brain and a modern world that explains why you cannot stop checking your phone, why you feel uneasy in a crowd of strangers, why your fears outlast the dangers that created them. Knowing this will not make the craving disappear. The system does not switch off because you understand its origin, but something does shift when you recognize what is actually happening in that moment of wanting. You are not weak. You are not lacking discipline. You are running software written by ancestors who needed to find every calorie they possibly could, because tomorrow was never guaranteed. The scarcity that built this craving is gone. The craving remains exactly as strong as it always was. You did not choose to want this. Now you know why.